Hey everybody, welcome to Before College TV Live. With me today is Ethan Sawyer. Ethan is one of my absolute favorite people. You might know him as the College Essay Guide. He's a speaker. He is also the author of the quintessential college essay book, College Essay Essentials. And then Ethan, are we talking about your new book as well?
Yeah, it's coming out in like a couple months. College Admission Essentials. It's easy to remember.
Yeah, so I was looking at that and I'm really excited. Ethan and I have a history. We've shared many meals together. We have been at many conferences. And when it comes to someone who just gives me such a good feeling and just radiates joy, that's Ethan. And I
Hmm.
don't know if you know that, Ethan, but I really, I really like you.
Good. I like you too.
And I wanted to start this off by acknowledging my like for you, and just the genuine feelings, because you truly are a good soul, I believe, unless you have totally, led me down a path and like, am I going to read about you one day?
I hope not.
No, I know you're a wonderful person, and also we were talking about you've been reading Harry Potter and doing campouts in the backyard. That was real, right?
That's the best pandemic. I mean, that makes it sound like I've just been like crushing it on dad pandemic. There are hard times too, but that was kind of a moment where I was like, oh man, if we could just snap. This is the what. In other words, that's like the social media post version of my pandemic life. The real version is like,
Right.
crying and temper tantrums, and then my daughter also gets upset.
Right.
So,
And that's, but I like to show people that side as well. So Ethan, you are in California, correct?
yep, I'm in LA.
And today I read, this is May 13th, 2020. We are, I would say, I don't know how deep into this pandemic, but we're like, we're in it. And I saw that California announced that they were not going to be doing live classes. Is that right?
Yeah, it looks like the Cal States for sure. And what I read yesterday was probably what you read. It looks like the UC's potentially, I don't know if it's 100% confirmed. And that's hundreds of thousands of students potentially. So, it's big and it feels like the new normal is sort of becoming, I think we've all been kind of waiting for announcements like this, at least
Yeah.
us in the college admissions world, and going, what does this mean for schools? And I think this, I mean, I'm not a soothsayer. I can't see the future, but might this mean that other schools will be, online in the fall? Potentially. But
Right. It's fascinating to see because in the same day, the University of Georgia said that they're going to be doing, live classes. Students are going to be on campus. And I know Purdue, the president made an announcement the other day saying, we are moving forward.
right.
But then you see what's happening on your side. So, I don't really know, and I know you don't know, but it's fascinating to see because we're all dealing with new issues. So let me ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, because I want to know about, of course, the work you do, Ethan, but I really want to pull back the curtain and get a look into you and your life. So on a scale of 1 to 10,
Okay.
10 being this is the best week ever, best week ever. One being you're at rock bottom, like
Mm.
because you might be at rock bottom. You might have just put on a shirt.
Mhm.
I mean, you look well groomed,
That's
so
true. If that's rock bottom, I'm in trouble.
you look pretty good though. But where are you this week? And explain to me your number.
Yeah. So this week, so if you'd asked me last week, I would have probably said four, but I think this week is probably a six or a seven for me. And where this comes from is, frankly, and I think I mentioned this jokingly just before we got on, but what I've learned about myself through this pandemic is just how much when fear and anxiety creeps in, one of my go-to coping mechanisms is like, how can I help other people?
Hmm.
And sure, that can be a really cool thing and a great way of, making lemonades out of lemon. Um, I was going to say making lemon out of lemonade, which is the backwards, but I've seen, Harlan, that there's a way that's really awesome and great for the world and great for me.
Yeah.
But if I do that too much, or if I'm consistently going to that, I'm missing out on some like self-care and just everything else basically. So last week, we got we finished this big project, a new thing that we were working on. And this week I've been kind of taking it easier. And I told my team, I was like, let's take this week a little bit easy.
Yeah.
And I've been, going on walks. I got a new scooter. So my daughter and I have been going on a couple scooter rides this week. And I took a nap yesterday in the middle of the day, which was amazing. So I feel spacious, like for the first time in maybe a little while.
Right.
And so I would say 6 moving towards 7. And also here, actually, I think it's probably 7.2 because
wow,
my friends and I are having a conversation about buying a piece of property somewhere in the Pacific Northwest and, basically retiring near each other, but we want to kind of build up the property together and stuff. So I'm feeling some excitement around that. And so that's probably why it's a 7.2.
Oh, it's good. Something to look forward to. And I think that's something that a lot of people have been having a hard time doing, is finding something that they can hold on to. And I think that's a really interesting piece of, how do you find hope in a world where there's so much uncertainty and what you want isn't something you'll necessarily be able to experience the way you want to do it when you want to do it.
Right.
And
Right.
I think it's been a really interesting time for a lot of people, especially when it comes to being able to express ourselves, being able to be in touch with ourselves. Now, being the college essay guy, I would say would you say you're an expert at helping people to kind of open up and articulate that thing that's inside?
Yeah, you did this gesture, which is like the Aaron Rodgers, like Superman pose.
I was
And
ripping open my chest cavity.
I think I kind of like that as an image, is like, yes, there's like this way that we are opening up and, putting our vulnerable selves forward in the college essay. But I think that it sometimes is revealing superpowers, because I think that sometimes students have things that they're like, yeah, I'm kind of good at that, but they haven't like fully owned it. And I think what this process requires of students is for them to sort of look inward, look at their lives and go, what are these things that have, in some cases in therapy, they call it the marginalized narrative, which is like the narrative, the part of myself that I've kind of tucked away. And how can I put a spotlight on that and actually write about it in a way that I got to make myself look good, because I got to, I'm trying to put myself forward to these colleges. How do I do that in a way that feels really good? Not authentic, I think that word's overused, but that feels good. And what I mean by that is like, there's a way of talking about yourself that feels kind of bad and feels like you're just bragging. And then there's a way of doing it that feels like, oh yeah, this is actually kind of fun. And this is not as horrible as I thought it was going to be. And so I think part of what the exercises that I do with students are kind of like the Trojan horse of like, oh, it's just going to be a college essay exercise. And then all these, there's other things happen along the way that I think take students by surprise and make them realize, hopefully, or help them realize by the end, like, oh, I've got a lot of cool stuff to say. I actually have a lot to offer a college campus. And I enjoyed it. So I would say that, yes, what you said plus the other stuff I said.
Yeah, well, I think that's a real gift to be able to get a teenager to be able to answer that question of, what is it that I want to share and why is it important for me to share that? I think it's something we all struggle with throughout our lives, and then being judged and accepted or rejected based on what it is we're putting out there. Mm-hmm. So, how do you do this? And I want to ask you this question, not just for people who are looking to write an essay or a personal statement. Would you interchange those words, an essay and personal statement?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So those who want to write that, but I think that given that we're in this time of uncertainty and change and all of us processing really big, meaningful experiences in our own lives, that I think we can all draw from that to be able to gain something, not just admission and a great application, but insight into ourselves. So if you could generalize or help those who are watching to be able to go through just that process to answer that question of what is it that I'm feeling and how can I express that?
Yeah, I'd love to. We didn't talk about this already, but can I do an exercise with you?
I would love to. I am wearing, do I need to change?
You don't. So we've got this values exercise in front of us. And what I want you to do, Harlan, and I'm going to let other folks as you're listening or watching do this too. I want you to just look through this list, and you can either write them down or sort of hold them in your mind. I want you to see if you can pick, let's say, 3 to 5 of your top values for this time in your life. Let's say, what are your top 3 to 5 values right now? Because this is something that could certainly change. And others, as you're listening, feel free to grab a pen if you want. And I'm going to talk through this while Harlan's just looking at it.
So I'm going to pick 3 to 5.
Yeah, pick 3 to 5 of your top values.
It's so hard, Ethan, just to pick 3 to 5.
Let's go 5, and then I'll tell you what to do after that.
Okay. I feel like I'm there.
Okay. And then this is the fast version. Normally I give students a whole 4 minutes to do this instead of just 2. So you got your 5. Now from your 5, whittle it down to your top 3.
Top 3. Okay.
All right. And now it's Sophie's choice. Pick, what is your top value for today?
Oh, you're killing me.
I know. That's
not fair.
Self-care is?
It's not fair. I just said it's not fair, which rhymes with self-care.
I thought you said it's self-care. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's your top value.
Very, very self-indulged, right? Self-indulgent, you're a wordsmith.
Self-indulgent. I like, because I asked you what your top value is, everything that you're saying, I'm thinking is your top value. So now I think self-indulgence is your top value.
Is that one of the values I could have picked?
It's not, but it could be a write-in.
I went off the charts. You know what? I'm going to go, I'm torn. Can I tell you what I'm torn between? Because,
please.
So I'm torn between family and purpose.
Ooh, you're speaking my language. Tell me about that conflict for you.
Well, first and foremost, we're in a time of crisis and change, and I really see myself as being responsible for taking care of my family and my wife as well. I mean, we're in this together, but I really need to take care of those people who could be at risk. And that's really important to me. And then purpose is I want to serve others. I mean, I really am like you, when things get difficult, I want to pour my heart and soul out and be of service and to provide purpose. So I feel like I have some function, some role in a world where there is so little control. Yeah. But for the sake of this, it feels selfish to say family when I'm someone who's so purpose driven and wanting to help others.
Yeah. Give me an image for each of those. What does the image of family look like? Let's just go with like this week or these last couple of weeks. And what does the image of purpose look like for you? Just in terms of like, if you were scrolling through your phone, you're like, boom, that's an essential image that kind of would express that. Yeah.
Family is just all of us at the dinner table, just connecting, engaging, feeling safe and secure, being at a place where we're able to be honest and we can acknowledge our feelings of fear and insecurities and share insecurities, but knowing we're safe.
Yeah.
And being there, the person who is the glue to help to put that together, and also having food on the table, something that everybody really enjoys, and nourishing people. So nourishing their mind, and nourishing their souls and their bodies.
Yeah. I mean, from what I'm getting just from the family image so far is like, I'm getting the values of like connection. I'm also getting like security and stability out of that. Yeah. That's sort of that certainty.
Yeah.
I'm also getting a sense of like, connectedness with one another. Give me what's the purpose image for you?
The purpose is the people who aren't at my table. It's being able to provide those people that same feeling, that same sense of connectivity, that same sense of security, that same sense of safety, knowing that they're going to be okay and provided for, and giving them the insight and knowledge so that they have the ability to be able to find those things that I'm able to provide for the people who are at my table.
And if you had to do it in terms of, because I get what you're saying in terms of like, there's the inner circle and then there's like the outer, like people who are not at the table. What does that look like tangibly? Like in terms of how that purpose manifests itself? Is there an image that you have associated with that, or that you could?
Maybe it's just the image of somebody watching something that I'm doing and consuming something I'm putting out there, and seeing their face go from one of fear to one of calm and ease.
Cool. So I think this is going to make a great college essay. what I'm seeing in you, Harlan, is like, it's because the values that I hear in that is like, there's a meaningful work. obviously, purpose driven, helping others. I'm feeling that tug that you're talking about, and it's the stuff we need for a college essay. Is there's a conflict, and the way that drama is often defined is not, loving one thing and hating another. It's loving two things at once, and those things sometimes coming into conflict. And so, in my college essay, brain, I'm kind of going, well, this seems like it's either an unresolved or an unresolvable conflict, which is a great little bit of. It's almost like the sand that gets in the oyster that they kind of works and it shapes a pearl. This kind of thing can help students, and so I'll derive lessons that other people could use for this. But when we kind of happened into a kind of core conflict, and it can be like, here's this one side of me, but here's this other side of me, and then there's this big space at the end that's like, so what? So what does this tell us about you? And so one of the ways I wanted to illustrate, and I didn't know that you were going to talk about a conflict, but values can help us lead to this, is when we start to think about how do the things we care about most manifest in our lives, and are there in some situations where they rub up against each other in ways that create questions, or usually on the other side of those questions, insights, right? Because if we were to just talk about this, it would probably turn into a therapy session in a good way.
I think it already has.
And I wouldn't if we were doing a college essay session, I wouldn't push for you to resolve it right away. I would want you to live with the question for as long as possible, and try and write your way to figure out what can I say that's meaningful about this. And so anyway, this values exercise is one simple way that students can A, identify what they care about really quickly, and then B, in some cases, when they start to think about how these values manifest in their lives, what are the sides of myself that I want to show? So this is one way of getting at it. And so for students who are watching this, or parents or whomever, it's also really fun to you talked about dinner table, just have a dinner table conversation about like, what are your top values and what do they look like in your life? Because your top value, if it was, stability or success, might look very different from what my vision of stability or success might look like.
Right. Now I'm going to stop sharing this right now. And then the question becomes, what if I'm embarrassed about my values? When I was sharing this with you, one of the things that instantly jumped to the forefront of my mind was, I don't want people to judge my values in a way that's going to project me in a negative light. Yeah. I know that there are so many teenagers who feel so uncomfortable and their life is filled with so much shame. So how can they get to that place? Is there a way to kind of break them through, help them to break through that layer?
Yeah. I mean, so it depends on how much time the student is willing to spend with this process. I think that if a student, one of the things that I want to say to students who are listening is that, like, take time with this. And what I mean by this is, like, there might be some initial shame that comes up, but if, Harlan, we had time to like talk and work through this, you would be able to figure out, no, but here's why this value is so important to me. Here's why I'm a stand for. And here's this other one. Oftentimes there's like some initial flash of that, which is so common. It happens to me all the time. That's actually, I think, a good sign that you're getting down into the personal part of the personal statement. Right. And I just want to encourage anybody who's listening is to like keep going and see what's underneath that, because that's where we start to get to something like insight. And I think those little insights, those little gems are what can really pop and help your story stand out from anybody else. But it's especially those places, and I appreciate your willingness to be vulnerable, where we feel like, oh, I haven't quite figured this out yet. I don't know if I want to go here yet. That's where the magic happens. Yeah,
that's a scary thing to do, and it takes a lot of work. And I know that so many students struggle with that part of their lives. When it comes to, let's say, you looking at the past 2 months, and you going through the exercise of you writing a personal statement based on the past 2 months. I don't know if you've thought about this, but we clearly know that this is going to be the source material for a lot of essays.
Oh yeah.
I know before you were talking about, you have your list of like things to not write about that everyone's writing about. And it's like, how does someone not write about this? Because it's having such an impact. So I'm curious if you've even thought about this, or like, if you could just, give us like kind of on the spot, the last 2 months, taking those issues and you real quickly just formulating the framework of a personal statement. Yeah. So the first thing I want to say to students is, like, it's okay to write about this.
if you want to write about it. And this is not coming from not just me, but like I did a webinar with Rick Clark, who's the director of admission at Georgia Tech. And he said, how could they not write about it? How could students not write about this?
Right.
So I want to give you permission to write about it if this is something that you feel like is your story, but with a few caveats. Number one, the Common App just yesterday, so this is, 24 hours ago, released a 250 word spot on their application that basically asks, how did you spend the pandemic? Is there anything you want to tell us? And so the first question I would ask a student is it something that you feel like you could get into 250 words? Because if so, there's a spot for that. That way you don't have to, you don't have to use up all of your real estate, your 650 words, to only talk about what's probably one chapter in your life. Maybe an important chapter, but you've got this, it's just this one chapter. So know that there's a place for that in the application. Second thing I'll ask is, for when I think about it, students are either writing about a challenge in their life and how they overcame it, or they are not writing about a challenge. They're writing about anything else, right? And for students who are writing about a challenge and they're considering writing about what happened with, what they've been doing during the pandemic, the question I would ask is, does this feel like your deepest story? And by deepest story, I mean, like, is this what colleges want to know is what are the values, the skills, the qualities, your interests that are going to contribute to the college campus? Do you feel like describing what happened during the pandemic is the best way for you to describe that? And if so, then go for it. But I think that's going to be probably fewer than 10% of students who are going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just pulling that number out of the air. But I think that for many students, they'll go, well, it's one part of what I did, but it's not like the only part of me. And so then we're in the territory of what I call a montage essay. A montage essay is basically finding another topic. I can give examples if we want, but finding another template based on something that you love or know a lot about, something that you're interested in potentially doing in the future, and finding ways to show different sides of yourself, and then making your coronavirus experience one chapter in that story. Right. And thinking of this as like, so, depending on what your topic is, here are all these sides. I want to show A side of me and B side of me and C side of me. And oh, by the way, during the pandemic, I connected with this side of me. And one way to brainstorm that is to look at that values list that I shared. And by the way, folks can just Google values exercise, college essay guide, and you'll find that list. But you look at that and you go, okay, based on my pandemic experience, what was the value that I was able to connect with, or was it family, or was it purpose, or was it, or both, but, identifying those in a particular paragraph so that it doesn't overwhelm and take up, all the space of your entire story. If you feel, like, just another tip for those students who are wanting to write about the pandemic, two thoughts. One is that it's going to be probably a somewhat common topic. And if it's going to be a common topic, you're going to want to make some uncommon connections. What I mean by that is, you can look at that values list and you can probably guess what other students are going to say about their pandemic experience, and there's some general language that we can use about that. But just to give a kind of an analogous example, if you were writing about sports, we're probably going to talk about discipline, hard work, and perseverance. And that's going to make for kind of a boring sports essay. So what the exercise I ask students to go through is like, try and envision what the typical pandemic essay is going to sound like, which might be a little bit hard, but it's kind of a good mental exercise. And then don't say that. And then the last tip I'll give about that is, in terms of how you want to structure that, the first part of it should be on the challenge, but really most of the essay should be about what you've done and what you've learned through the experience.
How about that piece of, and I just want to kind of push back a little bit on you thinking about what everybody's going to say and what that typical one's going to be, and then not sharing that, even if that's the thing that speaks to me and gives it the most meaning.
Let me clarify. Thank you. So when I think of a boring essay as like chooses a common topic, makes common connections, and uses common language. And so if we're choosing I'll say a better essay often chooses an uncommon topic, makes uncommon connection, uses uncommon language. It could be that your essay chooses a common topic, but the more common the topic is, the more uncommon those connections need to be. And I think the more uncommon the language needs to be. So it could be that the value that you're using, let's say the value is like you connected with family. That's probably a pretty common value. But if you can use some uncommon language or describe some uncommon values connected to your family that might surprise us, then you're still talking about the value of family, but you're doing it in a way that we haven't seen. And so I just want to encourage students, the more common your topic, the more uncommon the connections, the
What would
insights.
be an example of something uncommon that would be?
Great. Here's what I always do is I just go to my values list. So I'll speak from my own experience because that'll be a little bit easier. But so I'm looking at my values list and my own coronavirus experience. Okay. So one that's jumping out for me is like, I'm going to riff on the family thing. So let's say I want to write about how I've connected with my family, which has been awesome. And then a value that's jumping out to me is like global awareness. Like there is some sense of just how much suffering there is happening in the world, and a sense of just how far away I am from that. And that gap to me is, I just totally, my brain shuts down because I can't imagine how hard it is. And we have to be careful because there's a trap here where it's like, and I have so much to be grateful for, which is a very common thing that students say, right? And so I have to go, okay, is there a way that I can take that value and push it to its extremes? Okay. So global awareness, if I push it to its extreme, lots of global awareness. Okay. Well, if I was totally aware of that, that would keep me from being present with my own family. But if I did zero global awareness and I wasn't thinking about that, then I think I would miss out on some experience of, of life. And so what I'm doing is I'm basically looking at this values list and I'm going, how can I push these to an extreme to potentially come up with an insight? One of the things, for example, that I'll just grab another one, helping others. Helping others is a great thing to do during this time. But if I'm only focused on helping others, as I kind of mentioned to you at the beginning of this call, then I'm missing out on some self-care. And so one of the things that I'm realizing is while it's important to spend a lot of time and energy helping others, there are some baseline level things like staying healthy and exercising that I need to do for myself. So what I'm encouraging students to do in terms of how do you come up with those uncommon insights is just to look at the values list and then to push them to extremes and go, what happens if we have too much of that? What happens if we don't have enough of that? And looking at that can give you options for how you can kind of level up these paragraphs.
So just following through with your example of the family and then the global awareness, what would be that secret sauce, that thing, just, even making it up on the spot if you could, or, if it's not a question that can be answered right now.
No, I'm happy to try. So we're brainstorming the essay, which I like. So in the sense of global awareness, this is actually connected to some of what you were sharing. And what part of what I was really resonating with what you were sharing was sort of like the being aware of all the needs that are out in the world and coming back to like, how do I take care of myself? So one of the things that I've realized through this, Harlan, just to go one level deeper with Ethan, is that I have some pretty strong codependent tendencies. And codependency, for folks who don't know what that is like doing things for people that they should be able to do themselves, and stepping in to like go try and do the things when actually they should do that for themselves, because I'm trying to avoid some kind of bad feeling on my own. And so one of the things that I'm working on personally, because I'm trying to keep global awareness, is separating from when am I helping to do good with others and when is it me just sort of my codependent. Oh, do we have a friend coming in?
No, we're good.
Okay. And when is it when have I totally gone off my balance and I'm going into sort of codependency territory? And that's an unresolved question for me right now, is like, at what point, what is the right level of global awareness for me in terms of, so there's like the different spheres, and it would probably take a little bit longer than we have right now for me to totally unpack it because I haven't figured it out. But it's at this balance of how do I take care of myself in the right measure so that I can give more to the world.
Yeah, I understand. It's so much fun to watch you process it and go through it. And it's funny because while you were going through this, one of my kids came down, working at home, and there's that constant need of wanting to take care of my kids, wanting to serve other people, wanting to listen to you. Like it was coming into complete conflict because right now I want to serve the world, but at the same time, I want to be able to take care of those around me. And it creates this humility of being able to acknowledge it and admit it and not hide it and not pretend. And I think that even like working through the essay with you, this idea like I don't have to pretend, and we don't have to pretend.
The thing that I'm present to about what you just shared, Harlan, is like you smiled, and it was bringing what was in the room live and acknowledging what's here and speaking to it. And also you did it and you do these things with a spirit of fun. and like a sort of lightness. And I think those are two really good antidotes in this time, is like acknowledging what's real and what's happening right now, and then trying to look at it with a sense of humor. So I'm kind of doing the same thing that I was doing, is like looking at other values that we can kind of connect to, but that's just based on what you're sharing, like the impact, and like the impact that has on me is like, I'm reminded to like breathe, and I'm not going to figure this out today, and to just have, to try and have fun with it.
I love it. I think it's so interesting. And it's not only an exercise on a personal statement. I mean, it's an exercise on what am I feeling and how can I communicate this and articulate this, whether I'm talking to my therapist or whether I'm having a conversation with my wife or a family member, because there's so many things that are in conflict with one another right now. And we're dealing with these unprecedented changes. So the exercises, the activities, they're really fantastic. I mean, you have an incredible website. Anybody who is interested in not just college related issues, but who's interested in taking a mirror and reflecting and thinking what's important to me and why is this important? I mean, the values exercise was awesome. I mean, like, I really enjoyed that. And there are so many other amazing resources on your website. When it comes to the resources that are the most popular, the most valuable, and this is collegeessayguy.com, right? Isn't that how we go there? Right.
Yeah.
It's such a, I was really diving deep. I really enjoyed it. And you have an amazing newsletter and so many great pieces of free information. But what's one or two of the most popular pieces that gets a lot of traction?
The one that we released in the last year, but that I think is probably the most useful for folks, is the College Application Hub. And it's basically everything that I could think to, put in terms of the college application process, all of our resources all on one page. And, folks can walk through that, and there's a timeline for what should I be doing when, and there are a bunch of personal statement examples. And so I would say, students can Google that College Application Hub, College Essay Guy. And then the exercises as they relate to the personal statement, the one that we did, the values exercise. And there's another one called the Essence Objects exercise, where students identify specific objects that are meaningful to them in their lives. And it can be a kind of cool way of starting to think about, again, what's important to me, but how do I tangibly describe talk about these things in ways that, that create a whole story. So I would say the College Application Hub. And then I've got this, that's part of a free guide to the personal statement. And I'd say that's probably where to start, because students can, if they've got an hour of time, they can go in, get started on the personal statement, dream a little bit. And, the feedback that we get is students feel like, oh, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be like. I thought it was going to be more like, this other thing, like an English essay, or I thought it was going to be boring, or I'm going to have to, don't worry about, I tell students, don't worry about the prompts. Start with some of these fun exercises. And those are the three that I would point to: Essence Objects, College Application Hub, and the values exercise.
Yeah, that College Application Hub was great. I was just going through it, and it's just awesome. And I know you have your new book coming out, and I'm going to wrap things up shortly, so I don't know where you are in time, but that new book looks amazing. So you have the book we all know you for is College Essay Essentials, but then you have College Admissions Essentials. College admissions is huge, man. Like, how do you put all of that into a book?
Well, I had a 450 page version, and then my publisher, Chris, said, great, can we cut 170 pages? And I said, yeah, we could try to do that. So in about a couple of weeks, we did that. Some of that, the stuff that got cut, ended up in the College Application Hub. But it is huge. And so, but there are certain pieces that we can sort of essentialize, and we can kind of go, okay, well, here are the things that you absolutely need to do. And certainly the book doesn't cover absolutely every aspect. And there's a set of resources that the book talks about that's on the website as well, where you can kind of do a deeper dive on some of the things. But if I'm sitting down and what I did through the whole book is like, imagine a student who's busy. What do I need to do? What do I need to learn? And it's like, okay, this is the most efficient yet thorough, way that I can imagine moving through, for example, how do I figure out what to put on my activities list? And I say that it's really a tough balance, because that's a conflict of values. I want to be efficient and not spend any more time than I need to with this process, but there are certain things that I need to do in order to dig deep. And I really want students to dig deep. And so hopefully it provides resources for helping them do that. And I wrote it over 3 years with interviews from over 50 folks and lots of folks in the college admission space. And so it's hopefully going to help some help some folks get through this process with more, as I like to say, ease, purpose, and joy.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for that. I have to ask you two more questions, and then we're gonna wrap. I want to know, who are the three people in your life that have had the greatest impact? Who are the people that you turn to when you need a little help or guidance? And these are people who can be present now, or people who have been in your life and are no longer present on a daily basis. Just want to know some of your people.
Yeah, I love that question. Well, and it was two different answers. Like the people who's have the biggest impact are no longer the people who I turn to now. So like the person who's had the biggest impact is probably my dad, but we chat, more infrequently now. The people that I turn to right now, one is my best friend, Ryan, who also has a daughter our same age. So we're kind of dadding together. And I've known him. We joke that we've slept in a room for more time than we slept in rooms with our parents, because we've just known each other since high school and college. Another one, who do I turn to? This is my wife, obviously, not obviously perhaps, but my wife is, she sees souls, Harlan. She can like see right into somebody and ask those questions. Like some people are like, Ethan, you're pretty good at asking questions. She like asks the question beneath the question to really help, you talk about a mirror. She's a mirror,
Okay.
For me and for so many people. And a third person would be, who do I turn to? My friend Greg. We went on my first social distancing walk this past week. And we do gratitude check-ins. We do gratitude walks. He has a practice every morning of journaling what he's grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And so he kind of walks with that spirit. So I would say my friend Greg.
That's nice. It's nice that you have friends and you have people, that give you
Yeah.
that joy. It's a wonderful thing. And then when it comes to your places, when it comes to the places where you've learned the most, where you've found answers and support, places that have really been meaningful to help you on the mission that you're currently on, because I look at you as being on a mission more than just being someone who is providing information. You're very mission driven. Are there, can you give me two or three places where you sweat, play, pray, live, learn, lead, love, work, places where you found that meaning that
Yeah.
just jump out?
Yeah. The first one that jumped into my head was from my past. It was like, and maybe because we're talking about college, like I got so much out of my college experience. And I think that's part of why I'm such a missionary for the college experience. Northwestern. Yeah. It was just, I grew so much in those 4 years. There's also a poet named Rumi. He's a 12th century mystic. And I find Rumi to be a place where I can, I get a lot of perspective. And one that I miss, but that used to be, was the basketball court. That, in terms of where I sweat, like I've spent so much time on a basketball court and figuring out just free throw, like, how to shoot a perfect free throw. So I would say Northwestern, Rumi, and basketball court. Probably like, it's probably outdoors. It's got like asphalt and one of those metal rims that just doom when you break it, but it's got a net.
Why don't you play basketball anymore?
I've been working too hard, Harlan. I've been college essay guying it up and putting that value, whatever you want to call it, so much over my own sort of exercise. So that's, back to my sort of, self-care versus purpose struggle.
Right. Well, that's great. I mean, it's fascinating. I'm excited to hear about that. We can play basketball sometime. I'm really bad. It'll make you feel good about yourself. We'll enjoy it. You're also a lot taller than me, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Then we can hang out. I'd love to have your wife, look into our souls at dinner, and my wife could be there as well. That would be wonderful. I really enjoy you, Ethan, and I know that those who are interested in the college essay and interested in admissions, I mean, you have so much to offer, and I know that you have a course coming up in June. So people are listening to this, but just tell us what this course is, because I'm curious to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. The easiest way to find out about it is to folks can just opt into the newsletter or opt into anything on the website, and you'll get a heads up about that. But basically, People ask me, like, when do you think is the right time to start and what's the right space of time? In the summer, I think, is a great time, especially now. A lot of summer plans have been canceled. Mid-June to mid-July, we spend 4 weeks and we meet once a week, and students in these 90-minute sessions where we talk for an hour, and then we do half an hour of Q&A. Students brainstorm, revise, and I do lots of live feedback and guide them through that process. And then in July, we transition into a course on the other parts of the application, the activities list, additional information, supplemental essays, so that by the end of the summer, students can walk back, assuming they go back into school, but they start the fall with their essays and application mostly done, at least for the early schools. And by that, I mean, it could be the early decision, early action changes, but at least they can finish their Common App and activities list before the summer starts. And it's fun. It's the courses pay what you can. So I never want, money to be a determining factor for folks. So anybody can join that.
That's great. I know you also do one-on-one, so to be able to have your insight to share that with so many people is incredible. So Ethan, I want to just thank you again for being here, for being a guest. Those who are interested in what Ethan has to offer, check out the College Essay Guy, and also you can reach out and connect with him. And I just want to give you a heartfelt thank you and wish you and your family well. Grateful,
Thank you, my
Ethan.
friend. It's great to see you.
Wonderful.